we are also, for good or for bad, more likely to do or not do something if we know that our action will have a clear negative impact on someone else. Not even just positive, but negative is really motivating for right or for wrong, human psychology. So I thought, what if we could take our strength and keep it a strength and show up for ourselves and help women feel this tangible joy that they have the power to impact the world by investing in themselves. Because it's easy to lose that in the hustle of life. Feel like we're not glamorous enough, we're not influential enough, we're not impactful enough. And so why even show up for ourselves?
Welcome to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with dynamic mother-daughter duo Simone and Olivia Canego, where they discuss the secrets of transformation and how to build bold confidence and unwavering resilience. From intimate conversations with inspiring guests to sharing their personal journeys of triumph and challenge, Simone and Olivia create a supportive space where every woman is encouraged to rise above her fears and love the woman in the mirror. Tune into the Daughter Dearest Podcast and join this special journey of connection and growth.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Daughter Dearest Podcast. I'm Simone Canego.
And I'm Olivia Canego.
And we are so excited because we have an amazing guest with us today, Ahna Fulmer. She's an avid lover of coffee and Jesus, not in that order. She is the founder and CEO of Early Morning Habit, a virtual health program helping busy women revitalize body and soul with a morning revival that starts each day with God's word and a workout while offering hope to a child waiting to be adopted into a forever family. I can't wait to hear more about this part. She is the host of the top-rated health and fitness podcast, imPERFECTly Empowered, and author of AhnaFulmer.com. A dual certified nurse practitioner with 10 years of emergency medicine experience, Ahna is passionate about equipping women with practical, scientifically proven strategies to redevelop their hearts and homes to thrive emotionally, mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually, while fulfilling their God-given purpose with more confidence and joy. She's been published by the American Heart Association and featured on major platforms like iHeartRadio, ABC News, Authority Magazine, and Thrive Global. Ahna, we are so excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. So before we get started, can you just tell our listeners a bit more about yourself as a whole person, your family, what you do, all the things that are important to you?
Yeah, well, my social security number is, I'm just kidding. Yeah, well, to press the rewind button a little bit, you mentioned when I first came on that there's a lot going on over, if anyone visits my website, there's a lot happening. And the rewind button a little bit to give some perspective is that approximately 5 years ago, I came home one night. I was an emergency medicine nurse practitioner. I worked in the ER for 10 years. And I came home one night after a long shift and I flopped on the couch and started moaning about our medical system and all of the things that are wrong and how we're more concerned about, dotting the I's and crossing the T's of disease than we are actually preventing it in the first place. And, blah, blah, blah. And he's reading a book and he doesn't even look up. And he said, well, you could just make your millions blogging about our fixer-upper adventures. And I was like, what's a blog? This was not that long ago. You would think I was from a different century. But up until that point, we had been renovating the homes that we lived in. And what he explained to me that I didn't realize is that every time that I Googled how to install crown molding, I was actually being sent to somebody's website and their blog post on that website. And so it opened this whole new world for me because up until that point, I had gotten 2 masters in nursing. I was a dual certified nurse practitioner with adult geriatric critical care from Johns Hopkins and family medicine. I helped start up a hospital-wide stroke program from the ground up and then acted as the assistant medical director for that program, which was really an honor. And then on top of that, we were renovating our homes. I had 3 kids, age 5, 3, and 1. And the idea of being able to start something just for myself was really appealing and tap into that creative part of my brain. And so that's how my first step into the virtual world really happened. Up until the age of 32, I had no social media. I was 32. I'm 37 now, so about 5 years ago. So I had no social media. I didn't know what a blog was. And then I was stepping into this space of creating a blog, and I just fell in love with digital scrapbooking is what I called it. But that's how I started. That is how I even got into virtual entrepreneurship and what I'm doing today. And then that rolled into virtual health and fitness, which is kind of the next part of the story. But that's how I initially stepped into this space.
Are you still doing like DIY blogs today?
That's a great question. So with the launch of my new health and fitness program, Early Morning Habit, we had to like completely shift gears, which has, as you guys know, I mean, anyone in any business setting, even in life, understands that ideas like you start on one path, and then before you know it, God, like where you thought you were starting, you realize you're actually veering this way, and it's like a completely different path, even though it started on the same one. So I am not specifically blogging about home DIY stuff anymore.
And what was that? Can people still find that? Is it still like
it's still yes, it's still the blog on my current website, ahnafulmer.com. If you click on the blog tab, you'll find all kinds of home renovation inspiration, decor
I always
posts.
think it's so cool when people do all the like home renovation things themselves. I feel like, I mean,
I'm not so good at it.
no, I'm not so good at it. I was going to say I have 2 left feet, but that doesn't apply to this. I can't use a hammer. There's no way I would lose my thumb.
Listen, you say that, but I'm telling you, it's therapeutic. I mean, people could save thousands on therapy if they just picked up a tool and started swinging at things.
Yeah, okay,
that are not human.
That's why I used to like boxing so much.
Yeah.
Because like you get to go in there, you're not thinking about anything else. You're just hitting a bag, hitting mitts, and it takes your mind off of everything else. And then you go out of there feeling completely refreshed. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly. So go ahead, pick up that hammer, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, maybe when you move to your own house. Yeah.
Maybe not in the apartment.
No.
I would have a couple of holes in the wall.
So tell us more about Early Morning Habit, because I'm a big fan of habits. I'm a big fan of morning affirmations, evening gratitudes. I'd love to hear about what your program does and really what a day in your life is in terms of habits.
Yeah, and what that looks like. Well, I mentioned that I started into this blogging world, or stepped into virtual entrepreneurship about 5 years ago. And one of the things that I quickly realized is, in order to even create the time to write the posts, I needed to get up before my kids. Up until that point, I was waking up with the chaos of my children at 7 o'clock to get my oldest out the door to kindergarten and just keep my younger 2 alive.
I hear you.
Yeah, right? I mean, mom life. When you know, you know. And up until that point, I would also say I've never been a morning person by nature or by biology. It is a real thing. 50% of us are not morning people by biology. And if you're asking yourself, am I a morning person? You are. Because if you're not, you know you're not. There's no question. So for me, I definitely was not, but I was motivated. And so I pushed my alarm clock back 30 minutes. And it was with the intent to be productive and to get more done, which is why a lot of us start morning routines, because we think we're going to get more done for the day, check off more of our to-do list. And it did feel good, and I was very productive. But what I started to see is how it actually just fueled even more of a sense of need for productivity, because then I'd get started and then I'd almost be like resentful when my kids woke up because I was on a roll and I wanted to keep going, and I did not embrace the interruption. So what also happened during this time is it was the first season of my life where I ever had any consistent earlier rise time that was just for me. It wasn't to get off to classes somewhere or to go to work. It was really my time. And as somebody who loves Jesus and is desperate to spend time in God's word and prayer in order to maintain my sanity, I was like, this is a perfect time to have that quiet time and really still my heart, my mind with words of truth and not the toxicity of a social media scroll or the news.
Yeah.
And so I infused that morning time. I set my alarm clock back a little bit earlier. And I started that time in quiet with God's word and with prayer. And what was amazing to me is that single habit transformed every single area of my life. So much so that I ended up slowly pushing out the sense of productivity from that time, such as writing blog posts, and really started to protect that early morning habit for quiet. And then over the course of time, I was able to figure out a system to actually get my workout done as well before my kids got up, which for someone who's not a morning person, and some people listening and watching right now, they're like, girl, that's never going to happen. I'm telling you right now, if I can do it, you can do it.
It is huge. Trust me. I mean, I used to get up when I was training for something, 4:30, whatever, before work, whatever I was doing at the time. And now I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I need to get up at 7, I don't know. But yes,
Yes.
you definitely can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and here's precisely why early morning habit was created. Because it took me 2 years. It took me 2 years. What I haven't mentioned yet is eventually I started to introduce my health and fitness expertise to my virtual presence on my website, especially the year of COVID when there was all this nonsense going out. And I had this audience in front of me who was there for home decor. And I was like, okay, I need to actually start infusing some of like my knowledge into this space, or else they're going to get it from some Joe Schmo who has no idea what they're talking about and no medical background at all.
Yeah.
And so it was the first that I started introducing, all of the letters behind my name for health and wellness into this virtual space. And I started to see this amazing connection that the women who were coming to my site who wanted to know budget friendly ways to renovate their kitchen were the same women really intrigued about this sort of bridge that I created between the medical space and the health and wellness space, because they're not the same. By the way, you guys, your doctor does not necessarily know what nutrition you should actually be eating. So I was able to bridge this gap, and it just created this really unique opportunity, which is why I slowly started pursuing health and fitness virtually full time, and kind of pushing out the home DIY piece. But the bottom line where I'm going with this, I'm so sorry, I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you.
Bless you.
I apologize. I'm just on the other side of laryngitis, and once in a while
Oh my
I
gosh.
still get that cough and sneeze.
Bless you.
I think we're good.
I'm a 3 sneeze kind of person.
Really?
I'm
a 2
apparently an
sneezer.
unsuspecting sneezer. I didn't even feel that coming. Oh my gosh. Okay, can you remind me what I was talking about? I'm so sorry.
I can't, because I was thinking my worst quality apparently is my sneeze. That was the first thought. My friend told me the other day, I was like, what was one thing you'd fix about me? And like, no filter. The first thing she said is your sneeze. It's horrible. I was like, okay. We were talking about health and fitness
We were
and the
talking about
combo.
during, how the women who were the ones
Oh,
who did
yeah.
DIY were now the women who were.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. There's really worse things. I mean, if that's the best she could come up with, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. You're doing well in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, I think so. The
I-
worst thing about me is my sneeze. I'm
Yeah.
Is your
happy with
sneeze?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen. I'll take that. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Yeah, and so the bottom line was what happened with early morning habit is I created a system that is grounded in science to help somebody, instead of take 2 years to reprogram your brain and body to become an earlier morning riser and love it. I wanted to condense it, what I had learned over 2 years, into a program, because there are so many women out there who say, I would love to, I just don't think it's possible to actually get up earlier. And so that's really how early morning habit was founded, is this process that I went through for several years because I was determined. And then I created a very systemized, scientifically proven way to reprogram your brain and body to you don't have to get up at 4:30, you don't have to get up at 5. The idea is how you start your day with this one self-care habit that will transform all 5 dimensions of your health, and to love it.
So why did you choose to target women specifically with this program?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll actually tell you something that I just had this revelation over the last couple weeks. For one, there's a great quote by one of my mentors, Rory Vaden. You guys have probably heard this already, that you're best positioned to serve the person you once were. Well, I've never been a man. And so women are the market that I can relate to. And what's also interesting is that there is a level of exhaustion that is deeper than just physical, that women feel more than men. And I have my own theories for this, but what's fascinating is even when I describe early morning habit and when my community talks about the payoff, how this concept of starting their day being, not doing, has revitalized them from the inside out, women all around are like, amen. Yes, I totally see that. Oh my goodness, I need that. And men are kind of like, like, yeah, I can
Yeah.
see the benefit of starting your day being and not doing, and they value that. But I think the pressure that society puts on women, we already have this tendency to keep 12 tabs of life open in our brains at any
Yeah.
given time. This is not to say across the board, but generally speaking, men don't typically have as many open. We've been given this gift of multitasking. And then on top of the feeling of needing to do it all, society also puts a lot of pressure on women to look fantastic while doing it.
Yeah.
And unnaturally so, where we're not even given permission to allow the natural clock of time to make changes in our body. And with that, I think comes this very deep-seated weariness where there's a busyness that drains us and a nap does not cure it. And so this concept of being is unique to women, and I'm seeing with my eyes women revitalize, and it's hard to put into words what the exact problem is, except they just know how amazing they feel when they practice this concept.
Well, it sounds like, at least for me, as soon as I'm up, like there's 50 things I have to do, right?
That's right.
There's no time for me to just say, and that's why I do the positive affirmations in the morning, because it's the time for me to kind of breathe and understand,
Yep.
like, okay, I have a whole day ahead of me. But for a lot of women, they get up and they just start with their day and then they can't stop, right? I mean, there's one thing coming at you
Yeah.
all day long, and it's so
Yeah. I mean,
hard to.
I'm not even capable of taking a nap because if I close my eyes during the day, it's just like the flood of things that I have to get done. And then
Yeah.
it's just overwhelming and I don't want to sleep anymore. I'm no longer tired.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
anxious.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And so it's counterintuitive in some ways, interestingly, because the concept of starting your day being, not doing, is actually a little counterproductive in a lot of women's minds. Like it's a very radical concept because, and I did the same thing, when we push back the clock, the idea is we think we're going to actually relieve the pressure if we do more faster, if we do more sooner. But what we don't realize is that we're subtly fueling that hustle harder, do more to be better mindset that continues to leave us with this elusive sense of we're never quite there yet. We're never quite enough.
Yeah.
Whether it be just productively or even in our sense of self-worth, like we're just never quite content. We're never there. And so how do we flip the script on that and push back? And that's really what we're doing at Early Morning Habit.
So out of curiosity, what time do you get up in the morning and what time do you go to bed? Because that's always the complicated part. I'm like, if I go to bed too late, it is so hard for me in the morning.
Yes, I'm so glad that you asked that because your morning routine starts the night before. And even in our program, the very first strategy that we implement is something called the sensory sleep rehab system, where we actually work on rehabbing sleep before we even focus on what we're doing first thing in the morning. So I wake up at 5:30 every morning and I go to bed. I'm probably actually falling asleep on average around 9, probably between 9 and 9:30 on average. But when it comes to sleep, and this is the cool thing about Early Morning Habit, is it's less about the time on your alarm clock and it's more about the concept of how you start your day. So we have members who, we have women who are retired, who don't necessarily have the push of time on their schedule, or kids that they need to get off to school, or even a job that they need to get to. And so for them, their alarm clock might go off at 8 a.m. But again, it's the idea of how are you starting your day and how are you taking that time? Because I'm sure you guys even can think of many retired women who are even busier than when they were
Yeah.
not
Yes.
retired. Like time is it's a fluctuating concept. You think you're retired and you have more time, and then they're busier than they ever were.
Yeah. Well, when you retire, you think that you can take on all these other things,
Yes,
and then you totally fill every space of your day, but you're still not satisfied because you're doing way too many things and you have
that's
no
right.
time for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and so that's the caveat. People see the word early, and for some, it feels very abrasive, like I cannot wake up early, but I don't apologize for it, because the fact is, if I can't get you to fall in love with an earlier morning habit, then I haven't done my job.
Hmm.
And so early, when we end the program and you listen to my clients' feedback, early is now a positive.
Mm.
They love the fact that it's early because it means that it's time for them. And then a habit means it's so transformational. You can't imagine doing life without it. It's not a routine, it's a revival.
I love
Your
it.
listeners can write that down. Print me a
Yes.
shirt.
Yes.
We're in the process of printing shirts, actually.
I love it. So can we talk about sleep a little bit? Because I am
Yeah.
someone that has struggled with insomnia
Yeah. Inherited on my end.
for years, and
Yes.
kind of love to get your thoughts on what do you feel are the most effective strategies, or where do you start with someone who says, okay, I have insomnia?
Hmm. Well, I should clarify, in the sensory sleep rehab system in the program, what we're doing is we are scientifically leveraging the 5 senses
Hmm.
to sleep better. So a couple things that we do is, first, we do our own self-evaluation of sleep, and we look at the different elements of sleep to see where we're struggling with the most, because everyone struggles with different things. Some people struggle to fall asleep.
Mhm.
Some people struggle to stay asleep. And so, first, it's kind of understanding where you're some people struggle with both.
Hmm.
So it's kind of having a self-awareness of where your struggle is the most. And then some people just don't sleep enough. So there's all 3 of those: struggle to fall asleep, struggle to stay asleep, and then overall just aren't sleeping enough time. Which 7 to 8 hours is uh the average that the human being should be sleeping, and women do need more sleep than men, typically. So because of that, self-awareness, number 1, know kind of where you're struggling. And then one of the most, again, countercultural strategies that makes such a difference is that you need to resensitize your body to being tired. And this sounds backwards, because most of us are walking around tired all of the time. Women, especially, at any given moment feel tired. And again,
Hmm.
some of it is deeper than just physical, which is what we're trying to renew, but we also want to renew the physical as well. And so you can tell me if this resonates with you or not, because it did for me for many years. But you have a full calendar, you've been going all day, it's 7 o'clock at night, you haven't really sat down, you're finishing up dinner, you don't even feel like cleaning it up, but you're cleaning it up anyway, and you finally have this moment to relax, and you feel really tired. Maybe your kid has a friend over, maybe your kids are just playing a game, whatever they're doing, but you feel like it's too early to be tired.
Hmm.
And so you open up your phone and you start scrolling social media. Then your brain, whether you realize it or not, is starting to get triggered by all the things you're seeing on social media. You're starting to get anxious, even if your body doesn't feel it. Your
Hmm.
mind's starting to work. You just saw a post from someone. Now you're comparing yourself and feeling worse about what you did or didn't do in the day. Or maybe you turn the TV on, and now you're being stimulated by the blue screen, by the lights and whatever is happening on the TV. The point is, in our culture, especially in America, we actually do not know how to let ourselves wind down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we artificially extend our day. So the number one sense, if you want to leverage one of the 5 senses of your body to rehab your sleep, it is sight. Because the hormones of our body are directly programmed according to light, sunlight, and darkness to rise and then to fall asleep. So the problem is with the introduction of artificial light, like light bulbs, screens, all of the ways that we can artificially, literally enlighten our darkness, we're prolonging the body's fight to sleep. So the crazy thing is your body is trying to fall asleep. Your body's actually trying to sleep, but you are not letting it physically wind down and feel the benefit of that melatonin release with the darkness, because we flip on all the bright lights in our house. We turn on the TV, we've got music in the background, we're scrolling our phone, and we're stimulating ourselves. So tip number 1, put the lights down at like 7 o'clock after dinner, put down the lights. And then you need to avoid screens at least an hour at the very minimum before bed. Phones stay out of your room, because there's plenty of research to suggest even having the phone in your room is a mental stimulant. So keeping it out of the room, going back to an old-fashioned alarm clock. And then zero light, even the digital numbers on a clock, it needs to be pitch black, because that's literally how the body was programmed to know when to rise and when to go to bed, because we didn't always have alarm clocks. It was all programmed by light. So that was a really long answer to question, but it's one that's very multi-layered, but light is the most powerful sense.
So, which I think is amazing. And I try to do, like, I have my evening habits, like for sleep, and cold room, dark, don't touch the phone. I actually have a notepad next to my bed, because a lot of times if I wake up with an idea, I can't fall back asleep because I'm afraid I'm going to forget it tomorrow. So once I write it down on paper, then it's gone. But this is kind of, what I was thinking about, where you were saying your mind races, right? Olivia was saying her mind races, and mine does the same thing. So I fall asleep, no problem. I wake up, and then it's like all of the things I have to do. What do you tell women who struggle with that aspect of, like, you just can't shut the mind down once you wake up to go to the bathroom at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. So a couple things. Number 1, when people wake up at night, especially if they have their phone in the room, the inclination is to check the time. So number 1, do not look at the clock. The alarm will go off whether you look at your phone or not. The alarm will go off whether you check the time or not. Again, it sounds counterintuitive, but you are instantly feeding your brain information just to have to process the numbers and the time on the clock. And then whether you realize it or not, you're starting a whole narrative in your head. Oh, I only have 2 more hours to sleep. Or, oh, I'm going to be awake for the next 2 hours. So number 1, don't look at the time. Zero time. If you have an old-fashioned alarm clock, a sunrise alarm is one of my number 1 go-to tips. I'm not like a product pusher, but that is one that I highly, highly recommend. And you can actually turn the face of the alarm clock off, so it still functions fully, but with no light or like the digital numbers. When you go to the bathroom and you make that midnight or early morning run, there needs to be this is all part of the sleep rehab system, actually, so I'm so glad you asked. You need to have a digital sensor nightlight, because here's the other challenge. You run into the bathroom, you flip on the light, you've now just effectively flooded your system with artificial light, and your body's like, oh, rise time. And meanwhile, your brain is like, no, it's not time yet. So you also need to minimize any exposure to light when you do wake up then. So that's the advantage of one of those little, like, you know what I'm talking about, the light sensors that are nightlight. So when there's no light, it's just enough light that you can see what you're doing without risk.
Without falling down.
And then, so what's really interesting too, is the more that you start to practice these tips, you are resensitizing your body to stay asleep. You will actually start to wake up less to go to the bathroom. And especially for those of us women that pee no less than 20 times a day. One of the other strategies is to also just be limiting, while your body's readjusting, limiting how much you drink before bed. Is literally like going back to being a kid again.
Yeah, literally.
And then from a nutritional standpoint, eating more protein at dinner actually is going to help limit your wake up time at night.
Transitioning just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about the adoption portion of early morning habits yet. Let's get into that and how you decided to incorporate the two of them.
Yeah. This is my favorite part of the whole program. I get really excited about this.
I thought it was amazing, by the way.
What's that?
I thought it was amazing, the whole concept of it, because I was doing research last night and I was like, oh, this is such a great way to bring attention to adoption.
Oh, thank you. So about 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, God called us to adopt. It was a whole story in and of itself, and it was just an amazing experience. And it opened this whole new world to me. Adoption is a very unique journey and an incredibly special one. But several things also hit me very, very quickly that despite having renovated multiple homes and sold them myself, even though I have no experience in, I'm not a realtor or anything, multiple masters, all the stuff that I did in a hospital, I had never been more overwhelmed by a process or the amount of complex paperwork involved. It is so confusing. There is no clear resource. Every website tells you slightly different things. And then on top of that, you are already struggling with fear with the whole process because there's so many unknowns. And as women, we value control because it makes us feel safe, which makes us give this false sense of security. And so when you're already having to let go of control, there's already this whole element of fear. And then you add the overwhelming finances to it. And it's no wonder there are so many orphans, and that we can't bring more home. It's understandable because it's so much.
Yeah.
So number one, I'm passionate about being an advocate to help women rise in faith, but also to overcome the burden of finances because the finances are no joke. It's very expensive and that's hard. And so if we can take any part in helping to decrease that burden for an adopting mom, then that is really an honor. So there's that. But then in my experience as a fitness and nutrition coach, I coached for a couple of years for a program started by a classmate of mine from college called The Faster Way to Fat Loss. It was founded by Amanda Tress. And one thing that I saw while I was coaching for this program is the best fitness and nutrition programs in the world, where there's usually a gap, is accountability, especially virtual. Now that virtual is such a big thing, it's hard because you don't have that woman coming beside you in the gym, right? Slapping you on the back, encouraging you in real life. And so it is difficult, convenient, but we often miss the accountability piece. And then the second most difficult factor for women is motivation. Accountability and motivation are the two pieces that often are the most difficult barriers for women to overcome to see success in any health and fitness journey and habit. So what I did with this adoption program, this passion for adoption, and then trying to help women overcome these two hurdles to their own success, being accountability and motivation, is when I created the program, I thought, because it's a virtual program, and I wanted to create some self-accountability and drive for these women, what would motivate me the most? If I'm my own target market, right, and I'm trying to serve the person that I once was, what would have helped me show up for myself? And what I realized was one of our strengths as women that also becomes our weaknesses is that we are so good at serving other people. And we are quicker to serve those around us than we are ourselves. We are also, for good or for bad, more likely to do or not do something if we know that our action will have a clear negative impact on someone else. Not even just positive, but negative is really motivating for right or for wrong, human psychology. So I thought, what if we could take our strength and keep it a strength and show up for ourselves and help women feel this tangible joy that they have the power to impact the world by investing in themselves? Because it's easy to lose that in the hustle of life. Feel like we're not glamorous enough, we're not influential enough, we're not impactful enough, and so why even show up for ourselves? So in order to combat that, what we do is when you track your morning progress, which is specifically starting your day with quiet time and an effective workout, which we offer in the program. You track that for 6 weeks. And based on how many mornings you have shown up for yourself, we take a portion of your investment and give it forward to a mom who is enrolled in our adoption program, who's also an early morning habit member, who is raising money to bring her son or daughter home through Lifesong for Orphans. So trying to decrease that financial burden and increase that sense of faith, not just in ourselves, but also in this concept of women empowering women to thrive from the inside out.
I think that's such a powerful
Yes.
piece. So she's one of 6 children. So our oldest 3 are biologic, and then we adopted 2 children from Ethiopia who are now 20 and 16, and then our
That's
almost
amazing.
18-year-old is from South Korea.
Oh my
And
word, I don't think I realized that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So when you talk about overwhelming paperwork, I mean, stacks and stacks and stacks.
Literally.
Phone calls I would have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to be able to call the embassy in Ethiopia to try to get through. And it's there's a lot of hoops, and understandably, like, I understand that how
Right.
it works. You want to make sure that this child is truly an orphan. There's a lot of
Yes.
corruption out there. So, but there are so many children that just need a family to love them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the financial part is a big obstacle as well. So I think this is what you're doing is such a powerful program and inspiring, because it has a lot of parts to it, right? It's not just, oh, I'm raising money for this. It's making you accountable, and then that piece is also going to help you personally, but then help the people around you. Like, it's so
Yeah.
cool. I love it.
Thank you.
So is there an amount that you've raised so far, or and how does that work? Is there a certain amount that when someone registers and says, I need help, do you pledge that, okay, we're going to raise this much for this person? Or can you give us a bit about how that actually
Yeah.
works?
Yeah. So a couple things. So when there's kind of like 2 groups that do early morning habit, like there's the just women in general who we're serving. But then what happens when it's an adoptive mom specifically, so she's on the adoption page of our program, and understanding how by investing in herself she can also raise funds, because she has to also go through the program just like anybody else. So we're all speaking the same language, and so she can revitalize her own life as well. There's a couple ways that she can raise funds. So there's no pledge specifically. We don't guarantee a certain amount that you're going to get. Because more than anything, even above the fundraising, is we want her to be revitalized in her own life from the inside out, because there is nothing that is going to serve her child better than improving her own health and confidence and vitality. So that is our priority number 1. So we want her to also thrive in her own life. But then the ways that she can earn money are, number 1, she instantly gets a link to the referral program. So everyone that comes into Early Morning Habit is instantly approved for our referral partner program. It's very clear. It's simple to use. I was determined to minimize the amount of systems involved, right? Because we're trying to decrease stress, not add to it. So
Right. Yeah.
everyone gets an instant link. You have it. It's easy to access, and you can start sharing right away. So for women who are looking to raise funds, any family member, any woman that you bring into the program and refer, you're also going to get a 20% lifetime referral. So on her monthly membership or her initial payment, you get 20% in cash, or it's 15%. I'm sorry, I can't even remember what's on there. It's on the website. They get that in cash. And then what happens is, so let's say that you sign up, you bring your daughter, you bring your aunt, you bring your sister, friends from the neighborhood or church or whomever. Everyone who goes through the program, when they end at the 6 weeks, they designate on their form who they want to receive their progress reward. In order to receive the progress reward, you do have to be registered through Lifesong for Orphans. This is because we're validating the families. That's not my job.
Yeah.
They do it very well. And so then we take your Lifesong story and we put it on our adoption featured moms page. And so then when you designate at the end of the 6 weeks, you showed up for yourself X amount of times, and it's super easy to count in the app, in the tracking tab. And you say 45 times, you count up your quiet time and your workout. And then what our team does is we, based on that progress, we reward progress, not perfection. So even if you don't show up for yourself at all, you still just by signing up for the program, earn a percentage to give forward. So then we will automatically give forward a portion of your investment to that mom designated on the form. So depending on how long you're in the program for, and how many women that you refer, as well as women who may not know anyone coming into the program. And this is one of the cool things, is now we're exposing them to adoption. We're exposing them to women's stories. We feature once a month, we feature an adopting mom in the group, give a chance to share her story. She comes on the podcast, which also gets featured in the group. So bringing light to adoption, but then also that woman might say, hey, I just met her. I want this money to go to her. And then you can continue to raise funds in the monthly membership as well through our quarterly challenges.
That's so cool.
It's so cool. It's so important.
Yeah. I mean, every aspect of it, I love. You're working on yourself, you're helping other people. It's such a powerful program.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up pretty soon. We could talk to you for hours. I have a lot more questions, but
anytime.
So we like to talk a bit about struggles on here. What has been your biggest struggle, and how did you overcome it, or what are you working on to get there?
Well, it would be very redundant to say finding time for myself, because we just went through all of that. I mean, early morning habit, I would actually say, is probably how I overcame one of my biggest struggles, because it does affect so many areas of your life. One of the hardest things that I went through, this is a less lighthearted answer. I watched my best friend die of breast cancer, and leave her 4 young kids behind, for now, at least on this side of eternity. And I'll tell you what, how I got through that was the fact that I had started this habit of starting my day in quiet, because it is so easy in stress and in fear and in grief, to let your mind almost just become so burdened by the overwhelming thoughts, and then to feel all the things that come with that and not feel any clarity, right? It's just like a burden is the word that comes to mind. There's no lightness. And so truly that concept of being, and what we didn't even touch on is one of the things we do in that quiet time is we actually, again, counterculturally, we actually start with what is uppermost on my mind, with emotionally intelligent gratitude. And so even in that time, it was just day after day, kind of like being still in that morning and saying, all right, God, like, I'm angry, I'm afraid, I'm hurt. Here it is. Reveal to me what it is that I need to see.
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that you went through that.
I think the thing I keep coming back to through all of this is that self-care is not selfish.
Right.
Taking the time in the morning to truly just be with yourself and, I don't know, be in tune with your emotions. Not only will it make you a better person to yourself, it'll make you a better person to everybody else.
Yeah. So another question that we really love to ask, and sometimes we get some pretty funny answers, but what's something that your mother told you where she was wrong? We always think we're going to be right about everything, right?
And I'm like anxious to hear how my kids will answer this one day. I can't wait. It's so funny. There's so many things that come to mind, but not that sounds terrible, but like in a way that it's not even her fault, because everyone thought it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like not even my mom. It was like society thought this.
Right.
But something that comes to mind is that the low fat diet makes you skinny.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were constantly told, and to put it into perspective, my mom is an ICU nurse, and she has spent her career rehabbing cardiac surgery patients. On top of that, we have this very significant cardiac disease risk on my dad's side. My dad had his first heart attack when he was 40. He was a runner.
Wow.
My grandfather had his first heart attack at 50, never been overweight. My uncle died suddenly of a heart attack, and he had just finished a marathon. So I mean, like, it's a legit concern. So I grew up in a home very conscious of health strategies, and the big one that we all thought at the time was low fat diet. And
Right,
so
yeah.
we suffered through skim milk for my whole childhood.
We grew up
Now
on
I
skim
probably
milk.
drink 2% because we know better now.
So funny. Yeah, it's true. I mean,
My grandma still bakes her pie doughs with margarine. So
Yes, right, margarine. Oh, it's so true. Margarine.
Yeah.
That's what you got wrong, Mom.
Yeah,
That's not too
yeah,
bad if that's what
yeah.
you got wrong.
yeah, well,
she got a couple other things wrong too, but you know, and I know I've gotten a lot wrong. You know, I'm the first to admit it. I was like, yep, I was wrong about that one.
I know. I can't wait. I'm going to ask my kids this actually tonight. This is such a great question. I'm already anxious to know what I've gotten wrong.
and your kids are young, right? Younger?
They are. So they're now 11, 9, 6, and then the son we're adopting is 6 as well.
Wow. They're going to give you the most out-of-pocket answers then.
Yeah,
I can already tell
they'll
you
be
one of them is
brutally
going to be
honest.
that you don't give us more candy. That's going to be one of the answers.
Yeah, you'll have to send me an email and let me know what they say.
I will do that. I'm going to do that.
That's
I will let
hilarious.
you know what they say. It better be enlightening. That's all I care about.
Bring on your calendar, girl.
Yeah, I think today's is very good. Wake up. You're a miracle of a being.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Amen. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. A lot of times they will give us something like very complex, and this is just straightforward. You are unique. You are extraordinary. Embrace it. Maybe change
You
your
were put
habits,
on the
wake up
planet
earlier.
for a reason.
Yeah,
Amen.
absolutely. Each and every one of us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today. You're amazing. I loved everything about this interview. I learned a lot, things that I'm going to be using myself. So thank you for that. Where can people find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I'm excited to have you on my podcast. I can't wait. My website is ahnafulmer.com. So it's AHNAFULM as in mom, ER.com. And that also is the Early Morning Habit program is on there. If people just want to find the Early Morning Habit, it's earlymorninghabit.com. Will take you right to the program. But there's all kinds of stuff on there.
And the name of your podcast? So people can check that out as well?
Imperfectly Empowered. Imperfectly Empowered.
Love that. Love that. Well, thanks again for joining us. We really enjoyed every moment of this.
Absolutely.
And can't wait for this episode to come out. And then I'll see you on your podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with Simone and Olivia Canego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Daughter Dearest Podcast, at Simone Canego, and at Olivia Canego. Till next time.